Did they walk with me?
Growl.
Oh no, they were all incredibly pleased to see me. You have to take into account that when you go to Rath Yatra or any festival like that, if a person is still alive and hasn't left Krishna consciousness, people are insanely glad to see them.
So I heard Radhanath Swami was there. Did he give you his obeisances or not?
I didn't see him,
Oh,
or if I did see him, we didn't make contact.
okay. Who else was
He
there?
might not do that anymore.
Let's see. Giriraj Swami was there. You met Giriraj Swami?
Yeah, sort of.
Hmm. And other devotees were there. So who you had a conversation with? Any good people?
Not really. I mean, I didn't have an opportunity to meet with very many people. I was mostly with my children.
Okay. No problem. So how was the prasadam? Good quality prasadam? At the Rath Los Angeles?
It was sort of funny because the free feast was the main dish. And it was pretty good. I ate a couple of plates of it, but I really wanted to get to the other booths and get, fried pakoras and stuff like that. But it was very hard to do.
Because there were so many people?
There were so many people, and also the way they sold stuff was weird. Like if you wanted a slice of watermelon, they gave you a whole plate with about 6 slices of watermelon on it for $5 when you only wanted one slice,
Oh wow, that was a deal, I guess.
It was not my opportunity for changing the history of ISKCON or the world. Shall we put it that way?
You don't sound very enthusiastic, Narayan.
Well, my enthusiasm was I got to spend a lot of time with Jyotir and sometime with Shakuntala, and it was a very nice experience.
Right. Okay.
And we all just sat there and for several hours watching, listening to Karnamrita singing.
Oh, she was there, huh?
Yeah, she wanted to stay at my place, but Kuba was staying at my place.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, they have a Rath Yatra this week in San Francisco on the 14th in a few days. So it's not so big here.
I'm not going. What?
I said, unfortunately.
How's it doing?
Huh?
Oh, you're going to have a Sacramento Rath Yatra too?
Yeah, they're going to have one in September 18th. They're going to bring down the deities from Berkeley, and they're going to bring Srila Prabhupada and Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, and I think one cart they're going to bring down.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's the next best thing to having an ISKCON temple that represents Prabhupada.
Yes. So, I guess it's a good thing they're celebrating. But they should make they don't have any understanding about what Prabhupada wanted, for the worldwide mission. So they're doing in more of like a cultish fashion everywhere.
Well, they had an idea to begin with. And then when they began to expand the idea, they made it their own idea. And as a result, that's what Prabhupada, they said to Prabhupada, you sit tight and write books, and we will run the movement and distribute them. That's the mentality they had, because they said, we're able to do this. Prabhupada said, go out and sell books. We're selling millions of books. We can do all of this stuff. This is the way we do things because we're Americans and Europeans and stuff like that. And so they said to Prabhupada, just the way it was in the BBT trial lawsuit where KBI came out, and that was, you said he was a writer for hire. They wanted to think of Prabhupada as a writer for hire, that he had the knowledge and they knew how to sell it. And
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, I can't handle that mentality. I knew Prabhupada in a much different context, and people just absolutely made a mockery of the Prabhupada that I knew.
Hmm.
You know, they just simply could not accept Prabhupada as he really was. And as time went on with the GBC, after 1970, when the GBC rejected the direction of management, well, after that, there was no stopping them. So they could say, well, Prabhupada related to them. Prabhupada called them GBC. Sure,
Hmm.
he did.
Right.
And my second question is, did he have a choice?
That's a very good point. Did he have a choice?
Yeah, he could have shut the movement down
Right. Yes. Yes.
and said, you're all rascals,
Yeah.
but they were printing his books and distributing his books. How could he call them rascals? All
Yeah.
he could say is, I gave you instructions, you didn't follow them. Now you're insisting on doing your own sort of structure. So I will advise your structure, but I will not condone it. And they were so puffed up because of their structure that they never noticed that Prabhupada didn't condone it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like
Prabhupada never accepted any of this.
once you light a firecracker, it's kind of too late to, blow it out kind of thing.
Yeah. You blow it out, it blows you up.
Yeah. So that's basically what happened.
Yeah. So once
Prabhupada
they
gave the direction.
rejected the direction of management, then the Prabhupada's entire vision for what he wanted ISKCON to be
Yeah.
vanished.
Right.
And you can say now, oh, there's so many people, so many gurus who are all chanting Hare Krishna, they're all doing this, they're all doing that. They create their own lovely melodies, etc., etc. You can say all of that, but it doesn't restore Prabhupada to the center of ISKCON, which is where he created himself to be, is in the center of ISKCON. It's like you go into the temple and take the deity off of the throne of the deity and put something else there, like a teddy bear, and you expect it to have the same potency and effect.
Yeah.
But how
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was just talking to one devotee today, and it seems like, at least to me, a lot of people are using Srila Prabhupada's movement to attract people to themselves, to their so-called cultish, groups.
Well, yes, of course.
Like the conditioned on gurus are doing this, the Ritviks are doing this, there's other branches of the Ritviks. Oh, I'm the founder of this organization, and you should come train under me, and I will teach you all this. So they're using Prabhupada's movements for their own personal sense gratification, or bringing people to themselves, instead of explaining all these things and understanding what truly Srila Prabhupada wanted for his Krishna consciousness movement, International Society of.
Precisely.
So people, like you said, people are saying, oh, they're chanting Hare Krishna, we got so many gurus, we got so many temples, but there's no understanding of what actually Srila Prabhupada wanted. The right understanding.
None.
Yes.
None. So can we say, if they're chanting Hare Krishna, is that bad?
No.
Well, how can we say it's bad to chant Hare Krishna?
Right.
But will it produce, all I'm asking is, what will it be like in 100, 200, 500, 500,000 or years, 5,000 years from now? That's what we need to see happen.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
We need to see ISKCON in such a condition that it will represent what Prabhupada represented in Golden Gate Park and in Second Avenue in New York.
Yeah, that didn't last too long. I mean, from
In Tompkins
66,
Square Park, yeah.
66 to just a little before 1970, or just till 1970. Right.
Yeah. By 1970, Rupa Manjari and I have read through all of the letters, which we're going to start publishing on the website. Read through all the letters where they were fighting Prabhupada over the GBC. Do you remember that, Rupa? Rupa? Is she there?
The 1972 stuff?
Yeah, yeah. 70-year onward. Korandar, and then they brought in a Treya Rishi without permission.
Oh, yes. That was a very significant. Prabhupada was very upset about that.
Yeah,
Well, he was upset because,
GBC.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
He disbanded the GBC.
Yeah. And he actually had all the GBC members come and visit him individually so he could test their allegiance to him.
Yeah, people have some sort of weird understanding that Prabhupada's movement is finished now. We have to start our own movement based on the teachings of Srila Prabhupada and me being in the center of it, or I as the guru.
One second.
So
So they came up with their own, starting in 1970, late 69, 70, they started coming up with their own melodies. And that was encouraged by the GBC because they knew that if a temple had its own melodies and its own devotees in that temple, they could make that into a unit that they could use as a unit that had nothing to do with Prabhupada, even though Prabhupada was still present for another 7 years. And they didn't want that. They wanted everything to be their movement, not Prabhupada's movement. Is that understandable?
Yeah. Basically, it was an early deviation to take over the movement. Yeah.
Yeah,
More or less.
absolutely.
And that mentality was going on since 1970. To curb that, Srila Prabhupada tried to set up a management system where the temple presidents were the actual leaders of the congregation, where they would elect the Prabhupada appointed the initial 12, 12 GBC members, and then the elections were to happen from the pool of temple presidents.
Yeah, and he wanted them to be called officiating acharyas.
Oh, yes, right.
And Tamal zoomed in and said, is that the same thing as Ritvik? Because he wanted to use Narayan Maharaj's term Ritvik, not Prabhupada's term officiating acharyas. Because if they used the term officiating acharyas, it seems like a brainless sort of little distinction. But if they used the term officiating acharyas, then it would be tied into all the initiations that had taken place up until 1977.
Yeah.
There were how many? Thousands of initiations.
Yes.
So what Prabhupada said, I'll appoint some of you to be like those, meaning that you'll add to the thousands of my disciples. Instead, they wanted Ritvik, where you start over from scratch. And that was a sinister movement too.
Yeah.
But anyhow, the whole thing can be solved and resolved by Prabhupada being the founder of Acharya for 10,000 years. And if he's not, then you're not going to have much of an ISKCON even in 20 years.
Well,
it's going to be a big mess.
It's already going on.
It's already becoming a mess, but at least they still recognize Prabhupada in the center of the mess.
Well, not really. The big temples that were there in New York and stuff, Prabhupada's books have been replaced with Vaisheshika's books, Radhanath's books, and these other so-called gurus' books. So
are you joking?
No, I'm not joking. I have personal guests who visited there, and they did not see any of Prabhupada's books there. They saw this Radhanath's book, this Vaisheshika's, and Giriraj's books. None of Prabhupada's books.
Unbelievable.
This is the New York Brooklyn Temple, so you can see what's going on, at least.
Yeah, with the Brooklyn Temple, what's his name? Ramapad, whose name was really initiated as Ramapad, like Lord Ram, but it was misspelled, Ramapad. When he found out it was the wrong spelling, he kept the wrong spelling because he was very much in favor of ISKCON being run like the Catholic Church, Romapod would be run it like Rome, and they would be cardinals in the church, which is what happened. This is what's happened to ISKCON. Right? Hello?
I'm saying
Yeah.
Romapod has taken over.
Yeah, Romapod. And that means Catholic Churchopod.
Here Srila Prabhupada is saying in the initiation's letter, Romapod. Did you see it here? Prabhupada, let's see, what does Prabhupada say here? Okay, this is an initiations lecture in New York, July 21st and 22nd, 1971. I guess Prabhupada seemingly approved it. Ramapad.
Well,
Then he
either
said,
that or the person that transcribed it wrong.
yeah, Prabhupada says, all right. So there was a great rishi named Roma Harshana. So his disciple or servant, yes, Hare Krishna, come on. So Prabhupada is initiating here. Prabhupada is saying
Okay,
Ramapad.
So he knew it was Romapod, not Prabhupada. I must have been misinformed.
No, Prabhupada is saying here Ramapad, and they're saying Romapad. See it here?
He's saying Ramapod
Yeah.
or Roma Harshana is with an O, right?
Yeah, he's making us. They said Romapad, Prabhupada said Ramapad, and
Ah,
and Prabhupada said, all right. So there's a great rishi named Roma Harshana. So his disciple or servant. Yes, Hare Krishna, come on. So Prabhupada is initiating like this. 1, 2, 3 kind of thing, you know?
So
The
he made an exception to his own
Yeah.
statement.
Yes, he made a. So anyways, that's that. I just looked it up because you said it. So it came up like this.
nice. I've never looked it up.
So
So what do we decide? That it was Ramapod turned to Romapod?
yeah,
or Ramapod with an R-O supposed to be pronounced like Ramapod?
the Prabhupada wanted Ramapad, but devotees said Romapad, and Prabhupada said, all right, Romapad. So he gave a significant explanation here. So there was a great rishi named Roma Harshana. So Prabhupada, I guess, approved it seemingly as Romapad, you know. Here.
But then what does it mean?
That means Roma
The
Harshana.
servant of Roma.
Servant of Ramapod? Roma Harshana, I mean?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Let's see what's going on here. Let me see if there's any
I
questions.
guess Prabhupada sensed that the devotees were excited by somebody being named after Rome. Well, we have to take into account probably 80% of Prabhupada's disciples by that time were, what year was he initiated?
This was 1971.
71.
Yes.
So that's after they rejected the direction of management in 1970.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, we can argue that point that that ISKCON has been very much influenced. The GBC is practically clearly and by statistic, by statements, a agency of the Catholic Church. I mean, when they say the topmost officiating acharya of ISKCON,
Topmost ecclesiastical authority.
sorry about topmost ecclesiastical authority of ISKCON, you're talking about the Pope. Only the Pope is the topmost ecclesiastical authority of the Catholic Church. But because they have each guru is supposedly their own Pope, so they say the top ecclesiastical authority of ISKCON. Which of course doesn't make sense, because the topmost ecclesiastical authority is only one person. So saying that the GBC is the topmost ecclesiastical authority is really a clash of terms. Okay, where is everybody?
So why are they killing the individuality of the jiva?
I'm sorry?
Why are they killing the individuality of the jiva in the so-called ISKCON? Is it because they're trying to control people and manipulate them?
Well, of course, but the model is the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is famous not for turning the other cheek, not for loving your neighbor as yourself, not for doing unto others that which you would have them do unto you. They're famous for burning people at the stake, for boiling them in oil, for crucifying them, for torturing them. That's what the Catholic Church is famous for. And people don't like to mention it. Catholics don't like to mention it because then they think, well, if I mention it and criticize it, they'll come and get me and torture me, which is why they were torturing people in those days. The Knights Templar were known as papal knights, and they went to Jerusalem and they actually did incredible jobs getting huge amounts of money, which was difficult for them later on. They got huge amounts of money and they were looking for the Ark of the Holy Covenant and the Holy Grail and stuff like that. And they were digging around in the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. But then at some point, the Catholic Church became worried about them being too powerful, and they burned them. They were saints in the Catholic Church. They had their own branch of the Catholic Church. Then the Catholic Church came and burned them alive, burned them at the stake alive, even though they were the greatest Catholics, greater than the Pope. And the reason that the Pope had them killed, because he wanted their money, and the last thing he wanted was a whole order of papal knights that were actually greater and more spiritual than the Pope was. So what do you do in a situation like that? Burn them to death, boil them on oil, crucify them, stone them to death. You see, so that's the mentality that came into ISKCON with people like Prabhupada. Did you know that when they moved the New York Temple, they needed a loan to get the new temple? So Prabhupada, rolling in money, made a loan of millions of dollars to the New York Temple. And you know who he had as a co-signer to the temple, to the loan?
No idea who.
The New York Deities. He held the New York Deities liable for the loan of the pujaris making the temple. You know, the pujaris are making a temple. They're buying a temple for Krishna.
Well, it's
But
very,
but the way Prabhupada did it, he made the temple, made the deities liable for the loan. So when people made donations to the deities, the money went to Prabhupada.
well, he's a good businessman, all right.
Well, a good businessman, if you are a sinful man, and if you do not believe in the true existence of God, then he's a great businessman. But they followed the model of the Catholic Church from before. So at least they haven't burned anybody at the stake yet. Sulochan was the closest got to being burned at the stake, and they simply blasted him in the head with a pistol. So how do you think?
So what do I think? Criminals.
Yeah, criminal, exactly. But what was criminal is, you can't say ISKCON is criminal. You can say the Catholic Church is a criminal, and that ISKCON GBC, not ISKCON per se, because what is ISKCON per se? Chant Hare Krishna 16 rounds, offer obeisances to each other, call each other Prabhu, All of these things are the real ISKCON. Take prasadam, worship the deity morning and evening, have pujaris, have twice-born Brahmins do all the cooking, have twice-born Brahmins do the pujari work, have neophytes come in, and then in today's world, post-Prabhupada world, the new ISKCON devotees can come in, and after 6 months, they can be initiated by the twice-born Brahmins, who are the officiating acharyas, acting as pujari, acting as doing marriages, in Los Angeles, there's so many ceremonies, one man does it all. Ramapad, not Ramapad, what's his name? Forgot to say. So he does all the
Ramabhadra, I think. No, not Ramabhadra.
not Ramapad.
Rabindranath.
Rabindranath.
Rabindranath, yeah. Rabindranath does all the weddings, Shraddha, when somebody dies, he does the ceremony. You know, when you die and you're burned up, it burns up a lot of your sins with you. That's why being cremated is preferable to being buried filled with formaldehyde in your veins, waiting for the second coming of Jesus to show up and you'll rise from the grave without the leg that you lost, and then find your leg is waiting for you in heaven, attached to a 12-year-old boy who was you. And you say, I want my leg back. He said, not in your life, I'm keeping it, you know. Anyhow, it's all very poor thinking, poor philosophy, poor religion. Compared to the Vedic Shastra, it's not even a religion, it's adharmic.
Yeah,
It's,
right.
it's not genuine.
Yeah. Okay, let me see if there's any questions here from our online devotee
Sure.
friends. Okay.
Seems like there's a lot of negative voices on the comments.
Again?
Really? Well, let's answer them. Let's give them hearty, juicy responses to their negative ideas.
I don't see anything. Rupa, you see anything?
I'm just on my phone and I just see Zoom.
Oh, no, there's no comments on Facebook, on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No.
Rupa, what made you think there were comments?
Last week they had something like that.
Well, last Sunday, there were tons of comments. Rupa Majori had to stop every 5 minutes to read them, which was really great.
Okay. Today is Balram Jayanti. Today is the appearance day of Lord Balram, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, yes. Balram. The Balram
we
deity.
say the appearance of Lord
Mhm.
Balram, we made 5,000 years ago in Vrindavan.
What did you say? The appearance of Lord Balram 5,000 years ago in Vrindavan? What was your...
Is that what we're referring to?
Oh, yes.
Not Lord Balram and Krishna Loka.
Yeah. Is ever existing in Krishna. Okay.
Yeah. So these are all pastimes, and they're very lovely pastimes, and they're meant to educate us and bring us to the platform of pure unalloyed love of God. Which is
Yeah.
what-
These pastimes make it seem like, oh, Lord Balaram appeared and disappeared, So just like people see Srila Prabhupada's appearance and disappearance, they think, oh, Prabhupada was here and now he's gone. Krishna was here and now he's gone. This improper understanding.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean,
So-
when you're talking about improper understanding, I mean, how can they, who the hell do they think they are that they can talk about Krishna disappearing and Prabhupada disappearing? Who the hell are they to talk about Prabhupada disappearing when Prabhupada is the founder Acharya of the movement that deliver not only them, but everyone after them for 10,000 years. We're just at the very beginning, right?
Yeah, that's the proper understanding, because we're thinking in a material context,
No, it was sort of a miracle, Ramachandra Prabhu, that you and I fought up the idea, or it came to us, the League for 10K. Right? League for 10K means till the end of the golden age of Kali. So if we are considering League for 10K, then all of the people that are seeing Prabhupada in a small capacity, or Krishna or Lord Chaitanya or Balram's appearance or disappearance, when they see things like that, it shows that they are materialistic men who are thinking from the bodily platform.
Yeah. Immediately, yes.
Okay, so here you are on your bodily platform. What are you going to do? A, in your next life, B, in your life after that, C, in the life after that, D, in your life 500 years from now. Why aren't you preparing for 500 years from now? What do you think will deliver? Who do you think will deliver you in 500 years if the pure devotee is put out to pasture? I mean, we ask them, do you have someone who can deliver you in 500 years? Oh, there'll be an Uttamarakari, there'll be this, there'll be that. How do you know there will be? Did Prabhupada ever say there would be? Oh,
Prabhupada did say that there are big gaps from one acharya to another, but you should take from the present acharya. He
well,
did
10,000 years, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm saying that.
10,000 years is not much of a gap.
Yeah, it's not. So that's what I'm saying. Why look for another acharya when he's already here and present?
Yeah. So there's the question of understanding the nature of the pure devotee and understanding his mission. And instead, they've all tried to become club members. First, they're members of ISKCON Club. Then they want, after Prabhupada is gone, they want to be part of the Gaudiya Math Club.
Or start your own club with you being the club CEO or something. And then use Prabhupada as a stepping stone. Okay, Prabhupada was here. Now I am his disciple, and I have the same right to carry on the Sampradaya, just like my father did. My father was a good businessman, so I've inherited that wealth from him. So now I'll give it to you. So this is a very crude way to put it,
Exactly. But it's all based on bodily, the thing they're kept down to, bodily conception. The minute I have a bodily conception, everything I do spiritually turns into a material act. I become a material actor instead of an actual guru.
It turns into
Prabhupada said, I want my disciples to become gurus. Well, they picked that like a bit in their teeth and ran off with it. Haribol! Mohit Prabhuji, good to see you.
Yeah, they run with it. They take the statement and run with it like there's no tomorrow.
Hari Bol, Jai, Jai.
Hari Bol.
Hare.
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhupada wanted everyone to become a guru. That's what they say.
Yeah, sure. He wants everyone to become a guru. But then you look at the nectar instruction, fifth verse, the guru must be an Uttamarakari. So what he's saying to his disciples, first become an Uttamarakari and become a guru. Not just accept that you followed most of the regulative principles for 20 years, and now you can become a guru as a result of that great austerity of doing the minimal activity of a devotee for 20 years.
Yeah, not even 20 years. Srila Prabhupada appeared in 1966, and these so-called persons started initiating 1977. It's not even 20 years. I mean,
right.
I mean, let's Okay, 1966 to 77. How many years is that? 12 years? 11 years? Wow, just about.
Just amazing.
And then,
Over 12 years, they imagine that they've already become perfected. Well, because Prabhupada gave them things to do and they did them well.
well,
If they
that's
print
that's
books,
to
they
their
printed
credit.
Books.
I mean, that's to
Huh?
their credit, but that does not mean that, my father tells me something, I do it very nicely. It doesn't make me, some sort of, king or
Heir
something.
to the throne.
Yeah, I'm still a servant, not that I take his position and then, have my own movement within his own movement, right? Prabhupada's movement, you can see ISKCON, but when you really look at it, these appointed gurus or elected gurus or whatever you want to call it, they have their own actual movement, not Prabhupada's movement. They have
Exactly.
Prabhupada's movement, so-called, and they also have their own movement. It's like all these things are meshed in together.
Because they want their own movement.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a guy as a chieftain, he wants to have many people in his tribe.
Hmm.
If you go through the history of Europe, you'll see so many people came on horses and killed villagers and took prisoners and raped the women and had babies with them and whatever, all during that time. That's the history of Europe. And then the next group came and did the same thing to those people. So that's what they're used to. They're used to the European, even with Attila the Hun came in, did that. And then the Vikings did that. And then all in Europe was just one tribal king after another. And that's what they're descended from. They're
Well-
not even descended from the tribal kings. They're descended from the servants of the tribal kings. And now they
Yeah.
want to be tribal kings themselves.
Mhm. Yeah, well-
Only in America.
If you see the instruction of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a pure devotee Acharya, and he gave Prabhupada that same instruction that, okay, he didn't give him some sort of, some cultish understanding. He told him, okay, preach this message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He didn't say anything more than that. And Prabhupada,
If he had wanted to, he could.
hey, the dog is agreeing or disagreeing?
No, it's me. I'm barking.
Hmm?
No, it's, my daughter's dog. Kisses, come in here. Yeah, come here. Okay. Maybe she will leave the world at peace. So where were we?
I'm saying that when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada met, two pure devotees, they conversed, and Prabhupada says, Prabhupada was, doing, I guess he was a student at that time, he says, and he was for the Gandhi movement. And then his spiritual masters told him that, hey, this Gandhi's movement is insignificant and it's, it carries no importance. This Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is much more important than that. And he saw by meeting his spiritual master that, okay, what he's saying is actually a fact. And then, and
he never encouraged Prabhupada to do a tamal on him.
yes,
Meaning, join the movement, become my right-hand man, and when I croak, you can be the successor guru of the Gaudiya Math.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get to, and you said
you
it.
made that clear, yeah.
So
And he didn't even want Prabhupada to join the Gaudiya Math.
right, yeah.
His disciple said, "Look, he's married, much Maya. He's got children, double Maya. He's got a pharmacy, quadruple Maya. It's all Maya. Tell him to quit and join and move in with us the way we did. We gave up all of that so that we could become your disciple. And he's still out there being a karmi, and we don't need it. We'd tell him to stop." And Bhakti said he will know what to do when the right time comes.
Hmm.
And they couldn't believe, no one could believe it.
Yeah,
No one could understand it because they themselves had no idea what the right thing was. They joined the movement. Hundreds of them joined the movement with Bhakti Siddhanta, and not one of them came out as an acharya.
Yeah.
They tried to, they pretended were acharyas, but Prabhupada made it clear. He ripped them to shreds when he was still here as to his godbrothers, and their claim to be acharya was bogus.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So we see that when people join Srila Prabhupada's movement, ISKCON, they come, they're very enthusiastic. Well, I've seen it personally here in Sacramento. Many people come, they join. They're enthusiastic for a couple of years, and after a few years, they don't get the proper understanding about, what actually is Krishna consciousness, and they seemingly lose interest, and then
Yes,
go
because
on.
they don't understand that the whole thing is based on the sound vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra being chanted in the public space. If people could understand that, you and I, how can we do it? We can talk about it,
Yeah.
but people that are younger and ready to do things that aren't married yet, don't have kids yet, they should understand that clearly at this point, that the Krishna consciousness movement means chanting in the streets. So first we have to have our ISKCON temples back with Prabhupada in the center, and then everything following the temple program can be taken up by ordinary guys. That's what it was in the ISKCON. Ordinary guys from the hippie movement or whatever movement, beatnik movement, they joined. And they began chanting. And then they went chanting in the streets. And they became very successful. We began to distribute books. That was very successful. But Prabhupada then, when they wanted to do nothing but distribute books, Prabhupada said, okay, do nothing but distribute books. But that's not what he wanted.
Srila
He
Prabhupada,
wanted the books to be sold while on chanting in the streets. Chant in the streets, and then people will come and buy the books. But the people are so much into the pence, what is it called? Pounds, shillings, pence of getting a book sold. They were more interested in making money with the book than they were in distributing the sound vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra. It's hard for us to imagine nowadays in Sacramento, in Los Angeles, or anywhere that it was possible for devotees to go out in the street and chant Hare Krishna and completely electrify the people that heard them. I mean, I would do it, and I'm nobody. I did it, and Vishnu John did it. He was somebody, and he really did it. And he got people chanting.
Right.
But then Tamal kidnapped Vishnu John, created what Prabhupada considered to be the accursed Radha Damodar party. And then Vishnu John went there just to attract people to join from the temples. So the temples began to complain, why is Tamal coming by and taking our best disciples?
Yeah, look at this letter. This letter was dated 1972 to Rupanuga. He was one of the signers on the direction of management in 1970.
Yes.
Prabhupada is saying here, now I want that we shall concentrate on making our devotees Krishna conscious and ourselves becoming Krishna conscious, and not to be so much concerned with expanding ourselves widely, but without any spiritual content. Just like boiling the milk, it becomes thicker and sweeter. Now, do like that, boil the milk. This is in 1972 when the movement, Prabhupada is giving a hint here that
And the GBC has already thrown the direction of management and the GBC status into Prabhupada's face, because he created something which would have been a fantastic success for ISKCON. But the one detail that was missing is the GBC making themselves into oligarchs who were controlling temples, not serving temples.
yeah, why is Srila Prabhupada saying here, we have enough devotees now? It's like, now I want that we shall concentrate on making our devotees Krishna conscious and ourselves becoming Krishna consciousness, and not so much concerned with expanding ourselves widely without any spiritual content.
because that's what they were doing.
They were expanding like anything, I guess, huh?
Yeah, they'd go out on Sankirtan, they'd bring a bunch of people back, they'd get them initiated a few days later, and then after a month, most of them would leave. But you would have a situation where you had a temple full of shaved up brahmacharis who were pretending to be devotees, but didn't stick with it.
Hmm.
They left after a while because they were only trying it out for fun. Well, supposing I want to be a Zen monk and I go and live in a Zen monastery, then I leave. Well, I experienced it, now I want to leave. But what the Zen monastery wants is people to come and become Zen masters.
Zen masters, right.
Yeah.
Chai. So that training Srila Prabhupada was giving directly, with his whole program. But it seems people were not so much spiritually advanced. Or what is it saying here, Prabhupada saying? Spiritually Krishna conscious.
Totally amazing.
See, this is in 72, so just,
And that's, just
72
a
to
few
77.
years after the creation of the whole movement.
Yeah.
Less than 10 years, 8 years after the movement was created. So, right?
Yep. Okay, let me see what else is here. Mohit Prabhu, welcome back.
Jai, Mohit. What's Mohit going to say?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Haribol, Jai.
Haribol Prabhu, please accept my obeisance at your lotus feet.
Dhanwad Prabhu, Haribol.
Jai. So what brings you here? What ideas do you have in your mind and in your heart?
So old friends, old Krishna conscious devotees brings me here, Prabhu. I miss you guys a lot, but yeah, due to work I couldn't join. So Prabhu.
It's okay, you're here now. Forget the past that sleeps.
Should I bet that you're in Jaipur right now?
Yes, Haribol. Yes.
You have your Jaipur expression on the face, not your Vrindavan expression on the face. But Jaipur is very spiritual. I mean, Radha, Govinda Dev is in Jaipur, right?
Yes, Haribol. Yes.
Have you ever stood in the city palace? It's called city palace, right? In the city palace of Mansingh, and you come out and you're in a place where the wall is missing and you're looking straight across and you can see Govinda Dev right in front of you along a long strip of lake.
I've gone to Govind Devji, Prabhu. Govind
You've been
Devji
there,
is
right?
I've been to Govind Devji, but that city palace is not allowed for commoners. It's for all Rajas and all.
Oh,
We
you're
can't enter.
joking. When I was there,
Yes.
they let us all in.
So we are elevated souls, no? Spiritually elevated souls are allowed.
I don't know if you thought
Spiritually
I was
elevated souls like you are allowed, bro. We are not allowed. Commoners
My
are
son
allowed.
Kuva, who's staying with me right now, was in Jaipur, and the Maharani of Jaipur gave him special favors.
Acha. Yes, I know that Maharani Gayatri Devi was like
Yeah, but that was not that terrible a long time ago,
yeah.
maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Acha.
But you can't go to the
We
palace.
can't. No, Prabhu. We are not that much elevated than you, Prabhu. So we
Well,
can't go.
if I could go, I'm pretty much not elevated. So if I could go, why you cannot go?
Not
You're from a-
possible for us, Prabhu. Yeah.
Are you a Rajasthani?
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah.
So I should think you could go. And that's very interesting.
Inside the city temple, bro, we are not allowed, but yeah, in the temple, everyone is allowed. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Govinda Day. Well, in the daytime, in the night, I used to come for Mongol Archie for Govinda Day. I come in and all these Rajasthanis with big turbans on their head would be banging their heads against the columns, banging their heads and clawing at the doors of Govinda Dev's deity. and the doors would be shut all the way around the temple. So I just came in. I'd be completely overwhelmed by seeing this tremendous yearning and devotion on the part of the devotees. Then the Govindadev doors would open, and the devotees would be shrieking. You've seen, right? Of course, it's shrieking in ecstasy. But I never came during the day. If I came during the day, the deity doors are open. You can see all the way into the city palace from Govindadev.
Jai, Hari, Hari.
Did you know that?
Yeah, bro, I know that.
So you've
I
been
mean,
in the daytime in Govindadev palace?
Yeah.
So you've seen the inside of the Maharaja's palace. You didn't go inside.
I've seen it in around when I was 15 years old. Now you're not allowed inside. But
Not
in the temple,
inside, but if you're in Govindadev's temple during the day and you look across, there's no door. You can see
you can
inside.
look. Yeah.
But inside when you were in the Govindadev temple, in that part where you could see the deity, did you notice that there was a big howdah or throne that was in that space? Man Singh used to sit on it. Hello?
Yes, very good. So now, bro, it's like, bro, I'm there.
There you are again. So did you ever notice that there was a throne in there covered with silver and red velvet?
So, bro,
when you were
now
in there
it's
when
like,
you were 15.
I've been there. So now it's like, barricaded, right? The temple is there, and behind that temple, there's a barricading. You can't go, but you can just see what's going on there.
Yeah. But did you ever see
Earlier it was
you
open.
see that howdah covered with hammered silver and red velvet seat? You've seen that seat? You've seen
I've
it?
seen that.
Shyamasunder showed me a engraving in a book from about 1750 or 1800, like that, of that seat, asana, in the temple. It was all done in engraving in a book and printed in the book. And it was written in German, and the German was old-fashioned German, not the modern German using English lettering. And he told me, we're standing there just before he left for London to join with the Beatles. He showed me the picture in the San Francisco temple and said, someday we should make a throne like that for Prabhupada.
Haribol, Jai.
So I remembered that. I have a photographic memory. So I remembered that photographically in my mind. And then I made the throne. Well, that was 68, 69. I made a crude sort of throne. 69, I made a gorgeous throne that's in most of the photographs of Srila Prabhupada sitting on a Vyasasana. So I made a throne that I could remember from that photograph, from that picture from the book, right? Can you imagine what happened when I went to Jaipur and I went into that space and I was looking across and I said, there's the Govindadev deity with beautiful pond in front. And here's the space and there's a throne. Why is somebody sitting on a throne in front of the deity? I said, I wonder. And
same question I also had, bro. Haribol, same question I had. That how can someone can sit in front of a deity and they have their own throne? Yeah.
Well, that was Man Singh. He said, was he the one who brought Govindadev to Jaipur?
Yes.
Yeah. He rescued Govindadev. So Govindadev is his deity. And he is sitting in his palace. I am the Maharaj Man Singh sitting in my palace with hands that are huge. And I'm shooting tigers in the forest. Not shooting them, using a sword, a short sword to kill tigers in the forest as a standard of what a king must be, a Maharaj must be. So I'm the Maharaj of Jaipur, and I am looking at the king of the universe, the Maharaj of the entire universe. And so I saw that it was not, if I hadn't any education in it, I would have thought that was, pretty presumptuous, as you did. Why is the king sitting in front of the deity on a raised throne? But when you take the whole thing into account, that he rescued Govinda Dev from when the guys at Jaipur, not Jaipur, with the Taj Mahal, were busy shooting down the top 4 floors of the Govinda Dev temple in Vrindavan because the queen complained that the temple of Krishna was higher than her rooms in the palace. So because she didn't like that, they sent who it was, I forget who the Raja was at that time. Anyhow, he sent their soldiers there. They took cannons and they knocked down the top of the temple. And they had no reason not to keep on going. So Man Singh went there, kidnapped the deities and brought them back to Jaipur to rescue them from Shah Jahan and his people.
Exactly, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So I could see that the Maharaj of Jaipur could have certain feelings about sitting on a throne in front of the deity that we would not accept with any other king or with ourselves in particular.
Jai.
Haribol.
Okay, we got some comments from devotees online here.
Great.
Here is Peter is saying Jai. Peter is here in Sacramento. And then Aristo Prabhu is saying Hare Krishna.
Jai Aristo.
Hare Krishna.
Aristophanes.
Yep. We have Rob B. Prabhu. There are many Bhagavad Gitas written. Is Prabhupada the supreme one?
There are many Gitas written because of different periods of history where different gurus presented the Gita in such a way that the population and the priesthood and the Brahmins depends on the period of history. If it's in a Vedic period of history, then the Brahmins just listen to this Gita and how it's translated. But in the situation that we're facing, the Gita is being created and so processed for the citizens of Kali Yuga. Remember, Kali Yuga is 432,000 years long. We're dealing with the 10,000 years of the golden age of Kali.
We have a question here.
Yes.
Saurabh Sahu, does ISKCON consider Lord Venkateshwara as an avatar of Narayan?
What did he say again?
Does ISKCON consider Lord Venkateshwara as an avatar of Narayan?
Well, where does Lord Venkateshwara appear in Prabhupada's writing?
Okay, let me look it up. Let's see where he appears. Oh, there's Peter asked a question. What's the history of Radha Gopinath in Jaipur? Any information, Mohit Prabhu?
Prabhu could answer this much purely and happily. So
Go ahead.
Prabhu, you can.
Jaipur. Radha Gopinath.
Prabhu,
Who is worshipping Radha Gopinath and why is Radha Gopinath in Jaipur?
Go ahead, Prabhu. You just say it, Prabhu. I'm waiting for your answers. Yeah.
I don't know anything about Radha Gopinath.
Acha, you don't know? So, Prabhu, I also
Is he the deity of one of the other Goswamis?
Yeah.
Yeah, my son Kuva restored his temple a few years ago.
Yes,
maybe
yes.
10 or 15 years ago. He was
So,
doing
bro, I
very
don't
well
think-
in Jaipur,
Yeah. So,
and he was dealing
Jaipur is a Jaipur is a gemstones of bhakti and for spiritual life. Jaipur is a pure place. So they have various deities here. I don't remember exactly what is the history, but I'll come back on this. Yeah.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I cannot give a definitive answer on Radha Gopinath in Jaipur.
I know
I know
one
there
Gopal.
are 3 self-manifested deities in the Jaipur
Yeah.
area. One of them is up in the mountains.
I know some Goswami had come here and built it, but I don't remember exactly what it was. So yeah.
Well, it's there in Prabhupada's books, so imagine that if he wants to know the answer, he can find the answer easily without my ignorance getting in the way.
Yes. And when it comes to Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, Prabhu, to answer that question, I mean that Bhagavad Gita was, directly given by Krishna to Prabhupada.
Of
So
course.
that's Bhagavad Gita as it is. So if you read any Bhagavad Gita, you'll find deviances according to the timelines and according to people, those who are living around the author, and he was influenced by those things, right? But
And the
Prabhupada
amount
was
of money he can make by pleasing the audience with his translation.
exactly. But Prabhupada was never influenced by these things. He was directly guided by Prabhupada, Krishna. So
Exactly.
that's
And
why
he
it
wanted
is.
to guide people for 10,000 years, not simply for his own lifetime.
Exactly, Prabhu. Hari Bol, Jai.
Because the Acharya is eternal. They say, well, we know for a fact he's dead and he's buried in Mahasamadhi in Vrindavan. Oh, yes, you can say he's dead. Well, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, he reasons ill who say Vaishnavas die, when thou art living still and sound. Vaishnavas die to live, and living spread the holy life around. So if somebody wants to say Prabhupada is dead, let them take that up with Thakur Bhaktivinoda. Okay.
So Prabhupada can't be dead anywhere, Prabhu, because he's a pure devotee, and there is various instances. You can hear his lectures, you can hear his translations, where you can just find that Krishna is speaking through him. So
Yeah.
pure
So
devotees never die.
Prabhupada is, the idea that Prabhupada is dead means the disciple is dead.
Exactly.
The disciple says, my guru died, so I will become this guru until I die. But wait a minute. Isn't that a bit absurd?
Exactly, bro. Guru never dies, bro. At least a pure devotee never dies. He's always
Right,
there for
because
you.
he comes, Krishna doesn't die. And the pure devotee, who's an Uttama Adhikari, clearly he's in his rasa with Krishna. We've gone through so many different of these sessions where I have described what Prabhupada told me and expressed to me clearly about how you go from Kanista to Madhyam to Uttama Adhikari. So once you are an Uttama Adhikari, it doesn't matter if you were a conditioned soul or not a conditioned soul. But once you're an Uttama Adhikari, you're no longer in the conditioned soul category. So when you appear on planet Earth to represent Krishna, that is Krishna's pure devotee who is a resident of Krishna Loka coming to deliver us,
Jai.
ourselves, from planet Earth. So if we cannot consider that he's a mortal being or that he will ever die or that he ever was born in that sense.
And especially his Bhagavad Gita, he's written there. And if you read Prabhupada and if you can just hear one of his lectures, you can just understand that Krishna is there in that Bhagavad Gita. If you read Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will guide you automatically. And if you read any other books, you'll get to know that it's all materialistic. It's all according to the audience which he wants
Yeah,
to
all the,
influence.
all the other Gitas are intended to bring people to the Guru, not to Krishna. So the Guru writes
Exactly.
out his Gita. Maharishi wrote out a Gita. And in 1968, I went into a bookstore in New York City and I picked up the Maharishi's Gita and started reading it. And all I could say was, oh my God, he's really off on a wrong track, isn't he? And that's before Prabhupada's Gita was published. But I could understand from the way Maharishi wrote his commentary that his commentary was simply designed to satisfy his disciples, not for the purpose of understanding how to go back to Godhead, how to surrender to Krishna, how Krishna gets an instruction and you follow it. None of the transcendental things were present in the Maharishi's Gita.
Exactly, Babu. It's not possible. I mean, it's not ever possible that what Prabhupada has given us, right? No one can do it. And we should restore it properly. And we should be very thankful to Prabhupada that and should never remove his stage. Like, no guru. I mean, if you made Prabhupada as a guru, he is the guru and no one can take his position. That's my point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
So if someone is taking his position, if you're saying that we need Diksha gurus, we need these gurus, we need that gurus, you are like, I mean, it's your call.
Yeah.
If you want to go to hell, go to hell. It's your call. We've just told you the
Okay.
information which is correct. You want to go to hell, go hell. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this will be easier with time. You know, right now, I don't know if you follow this at all, but the Bible scholars are trying to understand the Bible. Well, they didn't have tape recordings. Jesus didn't speak into a tape recorder. He spoke in front of people. People all made up their own versions of what he said. Then they had the Council of Nicaea with Constantine. And he finally had to say, if you guys don't come to a conclusion within 10 days, I'm going to have you put to death. So they all came to a conclusion within 10 days, kicking out most of the people that knew all the interesting pastimes of Jesus. So he just wanted to get a doctrine down, and he didn't care if it was true or not. He just wanted a doctrine at the Council of Nicaea. So now they're busy going back, studying the early Christian, Hebrew, Chaldaic, Aramaic scriptures, trying to find out what really happened. And they've recently come to a point that, the Jews were not in Egypt. They were not enslaved. They didn't work on the pyramids. They didn't escape from you. The Red Sea didn't part. They were not, the plagues have nothing to do with Jews because there weren't any Jews in Egypt. That's the conclusion they're coming to now. They're completely deconstructing some of the basic parts of the Bible that people have believed for 2,000 years. So you can see that's what's going to happen to Prabhupada's books. They're going to be hashed around for 100 years, 200 years, whatever, until people finally get the idea that what Prabhupada wrote is exactly what is right. And since we have tape recordings, no tape recording of Jesus or Moses or anything like that, but we have tape recordings of Prabhupada, hey, that's the truth, let's use them. That'll be the scripture for the next 10,000 years. And hopefully everything will be kept in good condition until then.
I mean, one more thing, Prabhu, if you're chanting it, I mean, I say it again and again, whosoever I meet, right, outside world, inside, who's trying to be at least follow Prabhupada, if you're doing quality chanting, Prabhupada will automatically guide you. Hear what you're chanting and it will come automatically to you. This is the real source, right? Any knowledge which you have, any knowledge which you can take from anyone, from books, it's okay. Before that, focus on your chanting, everything will come automatically. Knowledge, everything Krishna will give you. Yeah. But I mean,
Precisely.
certain times certain times in the world, people don't follow the quality of chanting, and they don't follow chanting, and they just want to have knowledge, knowledge, and knowledge. So
Yeah, well, the
that's
GBC is heading in that direction now. They're saying, well, we have all of Prabhupada's books, but they're not answering all of our questions, meaning how to be a Catholic church after Prabhupada, how to create that. So they said, we're going to have to go to other Shastras and read other Shastras and try to figure out how to create this theocracy that we are looking to make, that top the ultimate ecclesiastic authority of ISKCON. How are we going to force that under the throats of new devotees? But obviously, it can't be done. And the new devotees need to be an atmosphere of an ISKCON temple where everything is there the way ISKCON temples are being run, except that the pujaris, etc., can also do initiation, and everyone will become the disciple of Prabhupada. That will not be difficult. And how do we learn how to chant Hare Krishna? Well, the one thing we can try that has never been tried before is wearing headphones and listening to Prabhupada chanting. And if we listen to Prabhupada chanting in headphones or earbuds, then when we chant, it will be unmistakably from Krishna Loka. Otherwise, everything we learn in a temple will be as good as the person who's chanting it. And if he's not a pure devotee like Prabhupada, which, may I add, he's not, we can say then that he's not as on the same level as Prabhupada. We know that. And therefore, we must go to the original sound vibration of Prabhupada and then take it into the kirtan in the temple. So we listen to Prabhupada maybe 2 hours a day on kirtan, all listening to the same kirtan tape. There's 20 devotees in the temple, 40 devotees in the temple. They should all have earbuds where they can wirelessly listen to Prabhupada chanting and study it and hear it. Then they'll have a kirtan. Well, they won't have any other melodies in their head. They will have in their head the melodies they heard from Prabhupada. So you have Mongol Arti, well, that will be Prabhupada's melody. You have Sundar Arti, well, that will be Prabhupada's melody. All the things that are chanted throughout the day, this will all be Prabhupada's melody. Then when it comes to chanting Sankirtan, which does not mean book distribution, Sankirtan means congregational chanting in the streets. When it comes to Sankirtan in the streets, well, when the devotees go out, all they will know is what they heard through the earbuds. All they will know is the way Prabhupada sounded when he chanted Hare Krishna. So he will be leading the kirtan in their earbuds. Well, when they go out in the street, they will be chanting the same exact chant. Even though the person leading the kirtan in the street will not be Prabhupada leading the kirtan, he'll be leading it as though it were Prabhupada, and that will make it extremely potent and extremely relishable for all the people who gather in the city streets and in the parks or wherever you're chanting. Does that make sense? Is that nice? What do you think?
Jai, of course. Yes, Haribol. Jai.
Is Ramachandra still here?
Haribol, he's there, yes. Ranu Prabhu?
I'm still here. Yes, yes.
Yeah, we want you to speak. Everything you say is so triggering and so stimulating.
Well, there's some questions here from our devotees I was just looking at. So I was doing some research. He's
Okay.
asking the question about Lord Venkateshwara is confirmed as an avatar. The reason of his avatar mentioned in the Puranas. Then why you guys not consider him as avatar? So I looked up Venkateshwara in Prabhupada's books and it doesn't come up with anything. But I guess if you look at Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's travels, he visited all the Vishnu temples and different, temple. So why is he not worshipable if he's your, so-called?
So where does he appear? You say he doesn't appear in Prabhupada's books at all.
Yeah, well, at least I'm looking at it. I'm not sure. Maybe they go by a different name, but
There's innumerable incarnations.
yeah. So yes, Peter's saying there's innumerable incarnations of Lord Krishna as or Vishnu. So many of them are
Yes,
present.
Ventakeshwara, that is a name. But so what happens if you look up his name? You don't find anything?
Yeah, it doesn't come up. I'm looking at it now. Here, let's see.
Did you spell it the right way?
Yeah, hold on. Let me share the screen. So let's see if it comes up. Here, this is how I spelled it.
Ronald bro, are you sitting with some god brother of yours?
No, he's cooking. I'm not sitting with him. He's here, but it's not.
Who is cooking?
Peter Prabhu's here.
Peter.
Yes. Okay, there's nothing coming up. So maybe we're spelling it wrong. Rupert, do you see how we're spelling it?
Yeah, I'm listening on my phone in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah. Peter Prabhu's listening on his
Haribol.
on the kitchen. Yeah.
Jai Prabhu. Jai.
Who's Peter?
Peter's devotee from South Carolina. No, I forget. Somewhere in the
Oh,
East
how
Coast.
wonderful.
Okay.
Okay, is it Ventakeshwara, V-I-N or V-E-N?
South Carolina. He's from South Carolina.
No, Ventakeshwara.
I have it here. VENKATESHVARA.
Okay, so where does it appear?
It appears as some name in a conversation with Srila Prabhupada.
So what does Prabhupada say?
He's talking about the lands were originally in Venkateshwara Gorakshini Trust. I guess he's talking about a trust named ISKCON Venkateshwara Trust.
In ISKCON Ventakeshwara Trust?
Someone is saying that, but it's nothing to do with the. It's just it's the Lord's name, but there's nothing philosophical about a philosophical explanation.
What does Prabhupada say?
It's talking about the land and Prasadam.
Oh, where's the land?
Where is this land? It doesn't say here. Anyways, let me go back to the question. What is he saying? 1 second.
Sure.
He's saying ISKCON Bangalore has Lord Venkateshwara deity on their temple.
Oh, that's it. Yes, they do. But they are worshiping South Indian deities, which I think in the end is a mistake. They should be worshiping only the way Prabhupada worships, with Radha Krishna.
Yeah, the South Indian tradition is a little different. They worship Lord Vishnu and Lord Rama, Lord Sita.
Yes, when I was there, I never saw deities like Radha Krishna deities. We never saw a thing that looked like an ISKCON temple in Bangalore, Bangalore temple.
Krishna Balram has Krishna Balram deities. They have Lord Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and Gaur Nitai. What deities they have in Krishna Balaram? I guess I could look that up.
I think so.
Let me see.
They have Krishna Balaram, they have Radha Krishna, and they have Gaur Nitai.
They don't have Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, huh?
I don't know. I didn't notice. My daughter Shakuntala is a great fan of Krishna Balaram temple, so she'd be able to say.
Okay, let's see here.
But I know that they have Radha Krishna deities to the right, Krishna Balaram in the center.
Oh, yes, I see it here, yes. Hare Krishna, yes, Radha Krishna is there too. Deities in Balaram, yes. Okay. Oh, Mohit is back.
Jai.
Let's see if there's any more questions.
Maybe he knows the answer. He goes to Vrindavan all the time.
Yeah, Mohit is always in Vrindavan.
Okay. So you
Mohit
guys
Prabhu,
are
what deities does Krishna Balram temple have? Do they have Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra or no?
Which one? ISKCON Vrindavan?
Ah,
They have Radha and Krishna, no? They have Radha and Krishna, and then Haribo. Are you
yes.
there?
Yeah.
Krishna Balram is not there.
And Gornitai or no?
Krishna
Gaunita is there.
Krishna.
Gaunita is there, Haribo. Yes. My favorite is Krishna and Radha. Radha and Krishna's.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
there's no Jagannath deities?
No Jagannath deities, no
Not
problem.
like the smaller ones.
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
You must be knowing it, Prabhu, because you've been there, no? So there are like 3 deities, no?
3 sets of deities. Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, 3 sets of deities, yeah. My favorite one is Radha and Krishna. Jagannath, Lord Jagannath is not there. I mean, the deities are not there. Yeah.
How about Delhi?
Yes.
What Radha Parthasarathi, what deities they have? Do you know?
Delhi, I've never been there.
Oh,
Prabhu.
okay.
In New Delhi, well, they're trying to put up 20 temples in Delhi.
Good one, Prabhu. I knew this. Yeah. There are many devotees.
Prabhupada said they should, and he gave indications into which parts of New Delhi they should have it. My late brother, Bhakti Madhurya Govinda Goswami, was at the, let's see, which temple was he at? He was at the, what temple was he at? Hello?
Punjabi Bagh.
Punjabi Bagh, yeah. He said Punjabi Bagh. But when I was there, I was invited to go out and lead kirtan and give lectures in all of the New Delhi temples. They didn't have as many that we're going to end up with, which I think was 11, but I went around to half a dozen, and they were temples in various degrees of development, including the big one near Mathura Road in that has all sorts of deities.
Cool. Okay.
I
let's
mean,
see.
most of ISKCON temples, Radha and Krishna is there, no?
Yes.
So,
I don't think there's any temple without Radha and Krishna.
yeah, there's all temples with Radha and Krishna, and some temples with Krishna and Balram. So, these 2 are main deities, yeah.
But in other temples, you will not find Krishna Balram.
Acha.
Only in
But in-
Vrindavan.
Haribo Jai. Yes, bro.
I had the great pleasure in 1975 of visiting Jaipur. And at that time, I got to know the people who are carving the deities of Krishna Balaram and Radha Krishna for the Krishna Balaram temple. They were only half carved. And
Acha.
the people carving them insisted that we stay at their house. It was a house maybe 6 or 8 stories high, and on every level they're doing deity carving. And then on the ground floor, the old people, old ladies, are busy taking sand and marble dust and grinding the deities and polishing them to a very nice shine. So I saw the Krishna Balaram deities there, partly carved. They were designed by Bhardraj. And they're from an illustration in one of the books. So it was a very exciting experience for me.
Haribo Jai. Yeah, bro. I'm waiting for you guys to come to India and make a temple where I can live.
Yeah.
Come there, bro. Become the president. Prabhu is the vice president.
Yeah. Just as long as it's in Jaipur.
Haribol. Jai. Anywhere in India, it's possible, Prabhu. I'll
Of course.
give my 100% to you guys. To
But
specially
I have a great satisfaction of every time I come to Jaipur.
Haribol. Jai.
Johnny.
All right, let's see if there's any more comments here. No more comments from devotees online.
No?
No more, they should post more.
That's amazing, because on Sunday there were like a couple of
Scads.
Yeah.
Because Bhanu was there, that's why.
Oh, Vanu was there on Sunday?
I think so.
Bhanu's Prabhu's mercy on us, no?
Very kindly, he was not attacking me on Sunday.
Acha.
And he actually called me up, like 3 o'clock in the morning in Los Angeles time, and went into a whole emotional thing, apologizing for having been so offensive and rude and everything like that, and begging me for forgiveness. It was so nice to hear him say that. Of course, it was not necessary. I didn't ever take offense from Bhanu, but that he said it meant that his heart was changing and it's becoming more and more Vaishnava.
Exactly. Haribol, it happens. I mean, I've seen various devotees, they divert somewhere and then they think that he's saying wrong and everything, and then Prabhupada guides them. So it's okay. Haribol.
Yeah.
That's
the whole trick. But how can they think, like one devotee who used to be in charge of the Toronto temple said that the ISKCON was simply an extension of the Gaudiya Math. I said, you must be crazy. ISKCON, Gaudiya Math was destroyed before ISKCON was created. How can you say it's an expansion of the Gaudiya Math? Because he wanted the whole Sampradaya to look like one GBC coming down, without the miraculous qualities that each level produced.
If it was a extension of the Gaudiya Math, then why Prabhupada established himself as the founder Acharya? I mean,
exactly.
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, Prabhu, they cite examples of Shri Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur being the guru, and it's like coming from there and there and there. So these lines have been told by ISKCON people, right? So that's the issue, Prabhu.
Well,
so I mean, wherever Prabhupada is, preached, people love Prabhupada books. They tell that Prabhupada has come from Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He's come from there. So that's how they, engage in the discussion with normal people, which which are like 3 or 4 months old. Yeah. So that's how they do it. Yeah.
Well, if you put a spin on Prabhupada as some ordinary living entity, then you can basically, come up with any damn thing. And
yeah, that's true.
Ramachandra,
may I give a short explanation?
Sure.
Of
Sure, Prabhu. I interrupted, I guess. I'm very sorry.
And talk about Vinod. You see, Bhakti Vinod had many, many children, like 11 kids, I think. And Bhakti Siddhanta was there. And he was born very extraordinarily. As he was born, he came out of his mother's womb, and he was presented to Lord Jagannath in Jagannath Puri with the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck like a sacred thread. That's how extraordinary it was. So when he got older, he became very, very knowledgeable. And actually, one time Bhaktivinoda Thakur was ill with some sort of heavy fever, and he was crying out in his fever, when will someone come and destroy these smarta Brahmins and establish Lord Chaitanya as the Acharya of our Sampradaya? Something to that effect. Yeah. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was probably about 18 years old when he heard that. And he heard his father like raving in his delirium of fever. So what he did was he organized an organization. He organized a mela called the twice-born Brahmin, the Gaudiya, I forget what it was called. It was something, the Vaishnava and the twice-born Brahmin and the Vaishnava. And he held a mela for 3 days. In that standard mela, all of these Smarta Brahmins showed up. And they all started arguing, as did Prakasananda Saraswati in the presence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They all started arguing this materialistic religious mentality based upon the Dharma of the Vedas. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati turned them into mincemeat. He chopped them into pieces in that meeting. So they all gave up. They all quit.
Haribol.
So, yeah, Haribol. So later
Yeah.
on, when it became time for Bhaktisiddhanta to be initiated, he said, who should I take initiation from? To his father, who is quite capable of being his guru. But being his father, you can't have that. It can't be done. He was his guru. I mean, it's his father. Father is always guru. Anyhow, yeah, but
he comes from the
you have to
lineage.
have a guru not connected to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
Sorry to interrupt you in between, Prabhu. So
Not,
if you're
not connected to not connected to his father.
so
So
Prabhu,
he said
sorry
he
to
should
interrupt you.
go and take initiation from
one
Gorkishore Das Babaji in Navadvip. Now, Gorkishore Das Babaji was known to be a raving madman. He took great specialty in being eccentric. I introduced the idea, beyond eccentricity, that he was a contrarian. That everything he did was contrary. If you read anything about his history, personal history, people said to him, "You're a great saint. What is the best dish you can offer to Radha and Krishna?" That's when he was staying in Vrindavan. He said, "Well, you take the peels from the eggplant and you mix it with the skins of the banana." And he started creating this very disgusting concept. And then when you mix that together, that will be the perfect thing to offer to Radha and Krishna. Because they were trying to exploit his knowledge for their advancement, and he wasn't buying into it. So when Bhaktivinoda Thakur told Gorkishore, told his son to go take the initiation from Gorkishore, he went, of course, obedient son. He went, and Gorkishore told him absolutely not, no way, ever. So he went back and told his father, maybe I should take a more conventional guru because Gorkishore doesn't want to initiate me. And Dr. Bhaktivinoda said, well, you had better ask him again because you're going to have to take initiation from him.
Sure.
You know the story yourself? You know the story.
No. I love
good.
the.
Tell
I
me.
love how you're presenting it, Prabhu. Go ahead, please. I want to listen.
Well,
it
I
more.
tell it differently because for me, contrarian means a lot. For what is the nature of ISKCON after Lord Chaitanya. So he came back to Gorkishore and said, I must take initiation from you. My father, who is at least my spiritual master, is Thakur Bhaktivinoda. He begs, he wants you to give me initiation. Gorkishore growled and said no. So he went back to his father, Dr. Bhaktivinoda again, and said, 2 times he said no. He said, well, you have to go a 3rd time. And if you don't go a 3rd time, don't bother even coming back here to my place. If you want to accept it. And so what happened is he went there and he crossed a bridge on the way over. And he stood on the bridge saying, if he rejects me another time, I'm going to throw myself from this bridge and drown myself. Because I can't go back to my father, who is an associate of Krishna and Krishna Loka. And I have no life then after that. It's useless. So he went back to Gorkashore Das Babaji with tears in his eyes and said, Gorkashore Babaji, my father said that if you don't accept me as my disciple, as your disciple, that I have no permission to go back to live with him ever again or associate with him ever again. And if I cannot do that, I would prefer to kill myself by throwing myself from the bridge and drowning. And that's what I will do if you reject again. So hearing that, Gorkashore Das Babaji said, okay, then I will initiate you. And Gorkashore, needless to say, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was deeply relieved. So Gorkashore Das Babaji, a contrarian, initiated him not with a sacred fire, not with ghee, not with all of these nice things and flowers and all of the auspicious stuff that you expect at an initiation ceremony, right? All the nice things at an initiation ceremony, none of them were there. He sat him on the side of the Ganges and picked up a handful of Ganges mud and put it in his hand like that. He said, now you are initiated. Well, Gorkashore Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did not dare argue with him on the topic. One of Prabhupada's disciples named Nimai did argue, and he actually rejected Prabhupada as guru because he was a great Sanskrit scholar and he was supposed to take the position of Pradyumna, who was a real Sanskrit, Harvard-trained Sanskrit scholar. And they figure, okay, we'll have Nimai do it. Then he had Nimai quit, and Prabhupada wouldn't have him work. So they were stuck until Hridayananda spent 3 years learning how to learn Sanskrit. Needless to say, he was not very intelligent with Sanskrit. And so for that reason, I will not read the half of the 10th, the 11th, or the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, because they were not translated and purported by Prabhupada, but by my godbrother, who considers me his partner Pradarshana Guru, Hridayananda Swami. I brought him into Krishna consciousness. So if I cannot accept him as translator, then he should give it up because I'm his partner Pradarshana Guru. But we're living in strange times. So what happened is that when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur became that. So what would happen with the Gorkashore Das Babaji? I use the word contrarian. Why? Because everyone wanted to become his initiated disciple. Why? Because they thought if I take initiation, I'll go back to Godhead because the saint has initiated me. So what did Bhakti Gorkashore do to prevent that from happening? You see, he'd hide out in the latrines. And that's a contrarian. A Vaishnava doesn't chant japa in the latrines, except Gorkashore Das Babaji did. He would also go running through the streets of Navadvip screaming with his clothing falling out and his private parts hanging out. Everything he did was completely contrarian. And people came and tried to get him to give them knowledge and wisdom, and he would give them strange stuff like offer the deity eggplant skins or stuff like that, which is completely wrong, unacceptable. So why did Thakur Bhaktivinoda want Gorkashore Das Babaji to want him to be Gorkashore Das Babaji's disciple? It is precisely contrarian. Bhaktivinoda Thakur could not really initiate his own son to be his disciple, but you could say that he should have initiated him to somebody like Gorkashore and that like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but he didn't. He had him initiated by the most contrarian person. Now, he was so contrarian, I could tell you dozens of sort of almost dirty stories about Gorkashore Das Babaji and being contrarian. One thing was, he said, they asked him, when you die, how do you want your dead body to be honored? And he said, honored. When I die, take my dead body and throw it to the dogs, drag it behind the rickshaw, and have the dogs of Vrindavan eat it as I'm being dragged. So that's pretty good. I mean, so what happened is when he did die, he left his body, the residents of Navadvip sort of got together and saying, well, we'd better honor that request. So they started working out a deal to get dogs to start chewing on his dead body and stuff like that. Well, fortunately, he initiated
Bhaktisiddhanta.
yes, exactly. He initiated Bhaktisiddhanta Das, and Bhaktisiddhanta Das took over the ceremony and created a fantastic fire sacrifice and Shraddha ceremony for him that he performed himself. That any Brahmin would not expect such a Shraddha ceremony for him. So that's how Gorkishore Das Babaji was honored by his contrarian disciple. So that's, again, contrarian. I've requested that my dead body should be dragged behind the rickshaws of Navadvip and eaten by dogs, but who knows what will really happen. So so then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur went on with his life, but he did so many things that were contrarian. And that had to be done as the loving and faithful disciple of Gorkishore. So have I told you this before? In his Bhajan Kutir in Radhakund, I went there. It's really funny because my son Kuva and my daughter Shakundala had gone there and they spent time with the Panda there, and they were begging the Panda, before my father leaves his body, we want him to come to Radhakund and be shown the various wonderful mysteries of Radhakund. And they gave him a chunk of money too, to make sure it happened. So I got there in a car with Kuva and Shakundala in Radhakund taxi. I almost gave up because we were stuck at a train stopping for 4 hours. But finally the train came by and the gates lifted. We drove through to Radhakund. And when we came there, just as I was getting out of the front seat of the right-hand front seat of the car, passenger in India, of course, and people getting out of the back seat, he came out, the Panda came around the corner. And I didn't know which Panda it was, but a Panda came around the corner and looked at the Shakuntala and Kuba and said, oh, is that the father? They said, yes. I mean, this is how mystical Radhakund is. You pull up, you get out of the car, and somebody comes around the corner and knows who you were from years before. So anyhow, he gave us a grand tour of Radhakund. And then he took us into the Bhajan Kutir of Bhaktisiddhanta. And in the Bhajan Kutir of Bhaktisiddhanta, it was a table like the coffee tables that Srila Prabhupada used. Maybe the English invented the coffee table. I will find out someday. And yet he had a coffee table just like Prabhupada's. So now we know why Prabhupada had a coffee table. And so for sitting behind while translating. So we're there. And then I noticed just to the right-hand, Bhaktisiddhanta's right-hand side of the coffee table was an English flush toilet. Right next to him in his Bhajan Kutir. Now, why? I mean, even taking into account contrarian, why would Bhaktisiddhanta have a flush toilet in his Bhajan Kutir? So naturally, I asked the Panda, and the Panda got sort of embarrassed and said, well, you know, towards his later years, he had some problems with his stomach. And I said to myself, okay, when donkeys fly. I didn't believe it. But I left, and I couldn't find an answer in Radhakund. So I kept on pondering it, and I kept on coming up with my subconscious to the conscious mind, until finally it became crystal clear. He had a English flush toilet. Everything he had was British style. When he went to Vrindavan, he went in the British limo with a British limo driver. That was contrarian because a sannyasi is supposed to only walk barefoot into Vrindavan. His offense at riding in a limo into Vrindavan caused the Brajvasis to reject him and refuse to take him to give him any prasadam. This is how contrarian he was. And he'd previously been a resident of Vrindavan. Or actually, no, Gorkashore had been a resident of Vrindavan. So that's how things went. So it occurred to me that was contrarian. So many things he did were contrarian. And then, what was the contrarian part of the flush toilet? He said, wait a minute, it occurred to me 4 years later. Bhaktisiddhanta, Gorkashore Das Babaji used to chant his japa in the latrines. So here's a fancy English flush toilet that Bhaktisiddhanta installed to honor his spiritual master. He didn't chant in an actual latrine where there's a toilet seat and then behind it bowls of clay, terracotta bowls that the taken out, put on a rickshaw, and a new one is put in place where people just poop right through the toilet into the bowl, and then the rickshaw fellow takes it away and disposes of it. If that's the only thing they had in Radhakund. And I asked the Panda, he said, that's the only flush toilet, that's the only English flush toilet in Radhakund. And then he said, that's the only flush toilet in Radhakund. And as anyone from India knows, in India, if you go into your houses or hotels, they have toilets that are sort of even with the floor and you squat over them, right? Isn't that right? Mohit?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
They have these toilets, you squat on them, and then they have water where you can, instead of like a bidet, you can wash your bottom up to you finish, and then you flush the toilet. But it was like it's like sitting on the floor. And it wasn't like that. It was an English flush toilet. And he said that is the only English flush toilet in Radhakund. On top of it, there aren't any of the other Indian Japanese type flush toilets in Radhakund.
So, Prabhu,
Yeah.
I missed it from where you were starting. I had a question when you started, right? So, I mean, why is it not that your father, when you're born to your father, who's a spiritual, who's in Ras with Krishna, can't you take Diksha from him? What's Prabhupada's analogy on that? Can you?
No, the son cannot take this initiation from his biological father.
Acha.
When he's growing up as a child, he considers his mother and father to be his gurus.
Acha.
Father is guru. But when he reaches age for Diksha, no, he must find an unrelated person to take Diksha.
Acha. Okay.
So there we are again. It was the only, all the other toilets, for you pass stool, were in privies, what we call in American privies, but they were just, you walk inside the wooden structure, there's a toilet seat there, you poop there into the bowl, then they take the bowl away later on. And that's all they had. So the guy was pretty amazed that he had not only the only flush toilet, but the only type of flush toilet, including Indian flush toilets, in Radhakund. In other words, it was very contrarian. So then, the question is,
We got about 10 minutes, so we got to wrap it up soon. So let's
Okay,
not.
so what sort of flush toilet was it? It was an English flush toilet, but who invented the English flush toilet was a man named Crapper. So when the English say they're going to go to the bathroom and take a crap, they're referring to going to the bathroom and using the toilet with the name Crapper inside of it. So he had a proper toilet in Radhakund.
Hare
So
Bol.
anyhow, that should answer your questions. That is contrarian. So why was he contrarian? Because if Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had taken on the highest platform of Guru, then and he initiated Prabhupada, then Prabhupada would not be able to cross the great water called the ocean. He would not be able to initiate women. He would not be able to make Brahmins out of women. He would not be able to do all the things Prabhupada did. He had men and women dancing together in the temple. Completely unacceptable. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had to take initiation from Gorakishore Das Babaji so that Prabhupada could come to America and do everything contrarian, even though he didn't look like Gorakishore. He looked like a very nice, sweet Indian gentleman. But when he taught women to chant lead kirtan in the temple, that could not have been done. That would have been prohibited by any Vaishnava temple in India.
Exactly,
So you
bro.
get the picture? Whatever Prabhupada did was very different than could be done in India. And his good godbrothers criticized him for it.
People
But
were
they
against
didn't-
him. Bro. Yeah,
They
bro.
didn't, they were very against him. But they didn't do what he did, and they had no success. He became
Exactly.
a contrarian like his guru. Well, if they had a contrarian guru, why didn't they become contrarian? No, they were using Bhaktisiddhanta as to exploit him so that they could become regular gurus. Anyhow, I don't want to go on further. I think I've covered the territory. 7 more minutes to the session tonight. I must apologize, as I often do, of saying too many things. But was that okay, Mohi?
Hari Bol Jai. It was great, bro. I just missed it. Hello. Am I audible? Huh. I just missed it, bro, after what you said that he went for the 3rd time and then he took Diksha and Gaur Kishore Babaji Maharaj gave him Diksha and then what happened? Then he was accepted and can you just brief it again, if possible?
Well,
Yeah.
then he became very strict. Siddhanta Saraswati means topmost knowledge, like the goddess of fortune, like the goddess
Yeah.
of knowledge.
Goddess of
And
knowledge.
he was
Yeah.
goddess of knowledge. So he became Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but he retained a contrarian nature, and that's why he initiated Prabhupada,
Hari
a
Bol
householder,
Jai.
instead of a sannyasi. And
Exactly.
Prabhupada went to America, and he was contrarian.
Yes, so but
So-
I think at that time of moment when he sent Prabhupada outside, so Prabhupada was like the first person in India to have an MBA degree. He was like, he could talk in English, he could explain things which was not that no one could have done it much better than Prabhupada. I mean, to the
Nobody could
Westerners.
have done it as well as Prabhupada. You're quite right.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So that's
So-
why Prabhupada was sent outside the world and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, keep going. This was understood by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It was understood by Gorkashore Das Babaji. It was understood by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And Prabhupada came there and was immediately seduced by Bhaktisiddhanta away from Gandhi movement into Chaitanya movement. It was not
Yes.
difficult to do. Then he told
It's
him to
like-
go across the big ocean, which is forbidden for Vaishnavas to do.
yeah, bro, it's like your guru knows everything about you, right? He knows your past and future, everything, right? So he
If
just
he's a
guides
genuine
you, you have
guru,
to
he
follow
does. Yeah.
it, right? Yeah, yeah. You just need to follow his instructions and all your life is successful. That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Okay, we got
most
about
of
5
us, if
minutes,
not-
so let's wrap it up.
Okay, if not, most if not all of us were disciples of Prabhupada in previous lives. Excuse me. But we've come here at the beginning of the golden age of Kali. We're only a few thousand years into it.
Jai.
The 10,000 years begins with Lord Chaitanya. So we're only we're very at the beginning. Prabhupada is the first Acharya, basically, in the golden age of Kali.
Are you working, Prabhu? These days, I can see a shirt and a tie. Are you working somewhere?
Oh, yeah. I did.
He's working for the FBI.
Yeah. I know. I did an interview for
For the FBI.
yeah, for the FBI.
Jai.
Yeah.
You did an interview for whom, Prabhu? Yeah, who was it?
For my
Yeah.
Ayurvedic doctor.
Acha.
I had Parkinson's disease in 1986, and he gave me medication, Ayurvedic medication, going back many, many lifetimes to his original Ayurvedic family in Udaipur. And his ancestor was the Ayurvedic Kaviraj of Udaipur, and he became and they came to Ahmedabad, to Shankisheri, and they settled down there and created a fantastic Ayurvedic clinic. And I was very fortunate that someone of Abhinandan came to me in Los Angeles, New York, handed me a business card when I had Parkinson's disease, said, go to India, he will cure you. So I went to India, forgot all about it because I had Parkinson's. Just before I was ready to leave from India, I found his card was in my passport.
Jai.
My passport had been seen and banged around by so many different people in Thailand, in Japan, and places like that, in India, all over India. It fell out at the right moment. I went on the train to Ahmedabad, came to Dr. Paneri. He said, you have Parkinson's disease. No one can cure you in America, but I can cure you here with Ayurveda. And he gave me the medications. And after a couple of years, I was completely free from one of the worst cases of Parkinson's I'd ever seen. Okay, now let's keep going. I'm sorry, Ramachandra, go ahead, take over.
Yeah. I was going to say this, that Ronald Prabhu is a bit angry on us. The vice president is angry. It's time.
No, I'm not angry. We just have 2 more minutes. So what are we going to do?
Acha, we have 2 more minutes. Acha. Thank you for giving us, Prabhu, the time.
58, right?
Acha.
9:58. Did
59:60.
any more comments come through? Or
Let me see. Okay, someone mentioned about smarter Brahmins. Some people were mentioning that smarter Brahmins were saying that Prabhupada translated the books wrongly. And he's saying she was saying many things like we disrespect Lord Shiva. She was giving Shastric evidence how Radha and Durga are the same.
Well, that's from a Hindu point of view. That's not from a real Smarta Brahmin point of view, even.
He's just saying a very bogus.
Chandra, why don't you answer that?
Well, he answered it. He said, I ignored this person. So I'm like, okay.
It's impossible. But I mean, Prabhupada has said it several times that who is Shiva? What's the position of Shiva? He's the most purest devotee and he's the most
And the Brahma
devotee.
in the Brahma Samhita, Srila Prabhupada or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains the position of Durga.
Very well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Durga has no connection with Radha whatsoever.
I mean,
Okay,
I've
it's
heard
10 o'clock.
several.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Dhanvad
Prabhu.
Pranam.
Thank you
I
very
don't have
much.
to apologize for talking so much, but I thought it might be good to broadcast the idea of Gaura Das Babaji being a contrarian and Prabhupada being an ultra contrarian, even though he appeared to be such a nice, gentle person. But he preached to people that were not deserving of hearing Shastra.
That's all Krishna's Leela, Prabhu. That's all Krishna's mercy.
Yes, it's Krishna's mercy.
Okay, so I'll end it here. We'll see everyone on Sunday. Rupa Manjari Prabhu will be most likely hosting. So please join the group. And then if you have any questions, you can contact Narayan Prabhu. Mohit is here. Rupa is here. I'm also here, and then you can post the questions in the chat or in the messages or on Facebook, and then we'll read it in the next Zoom meeting. Thank you, Prabhus, for joining.
Thank you.
Hare
Wonderful.
Krishna.
Thank you, Ramachandra, for being the host and the chairman of the board.
See you next time.